To do this in your second year is absolutely massive.
My God, he's fantastic. He's tough, he's clean on the ball.
Like, he's so silky on the ball, but I don't think he was doing enough.
Is he now on the radar of some bigger clubs?
Well, yeah, that explains the 5:34 a.m. post of the Auckland boys.
You know, that's strenuism. Is strenuism a word?
Hello and welcome, A-League fans, to the final episode of this season's A-League Downloads presented by Isuzu Ute. Auckland win their inaugural A-League championship after a 1-0 defeat over Sydney FC, who did a gallant effort to get there in the first place. But it was a very tight final. It is something we're going to be reviewing today in our final episode of the season. And who better to bring it with you than a man who won the Joe Marston Medal we were talking about almost 20 years ago, A-League championship winner Archie Thompson. The man who owned the left side out in Perth for years, all-round fighting man Naum Sekulovski. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Archie, you just got back?
Yes, yep.
Just want to touch on the atmosphere. It looked insane over there, didn't it?
Man, yeah, it was epic. Well, you had a taste of it a couple of weeks ago, but finals was just amazing. The stadium was absolutely packed. That port side, I didn't realise how big that stadium was. Yeah. Or even that side of the football pitch, but just amazing atmosphere.
Yeah.
Looked like it was bouncing.
Oh, it was bouncing.
Like full of energy.
Yeah, and the funny thing is they've got that pub that's just outside the stadium where all the port congregate before the game.
Lily World, that was called. Don't ask me how I know that. I was there a few weeks ago having some waters.
Before I would have known the name too, but not anymore. But it was amazing.
Yeah, it's a great setup out there. 28,000 there were at the grand final in New Zealand for the game on the weekend, and a brilliant game it was. Guys, just to touch on it, Naum, I mean, for you, we talk about Auckland. We've got to talk about it. This is only their second season. They were a chance to do this last year. They had a slip up in the, you could say, the preliminary final, but they've been a pretty formidable club since they've come into the competition, haven't they?
A super powerful statement now moving forward. To do this in your second year is absolutely massive. In front of 28,000, we understand it probably wasn't the prettiest game of football, but wow, were they ready for that 90 plus minutes of football. Super strong. Their fans were there. And for me, it just sets the precedence now for the next, 5 to 10 years of this football club.
Yep, absolutely. Well, a local lad was the one that broke the deadlock in the game. We're going to have a look at his goal, Cam Howieson, the Joe Marston Medalist. But this was a ball that fell out. We're going to show something not too dissimilar last time they played Sydney. A ball that was a bit scruffy, high up in the air, which was kind of patches for the game, really. But Cam Howieson hit it relatively sweet. Jordan Courtney-Perkins got a little touch on it, and off he was, Arch, to celebrate a key moment.
Yeah, well, we knew that it was going to be quite a tight game. There wasn't going to be an inch of space pretty much throughout the game. The intensity level was amazing. So how many times have we seen Auckland this year just get the ball out wide from a throw-in or a corner or even a wing crossing it in, and just putting absolute pressure on the ball. And Cosgrove, they seemed to look for him in that 18-yard box and then get the scraps. I just thought that, I think it was Kispe, could have maybe challenged that ball that came back in a little bit better. They got the goal, and Howieson, I mean, what a beautiful story. I mean, this guy was a journeyman. He played local football for Auckland City, and he had to bide his time to get that contract with the A-League and with Auckland FC. And had to again bide his time to get into that 11. He only had flashes of it in that first season, then a couple of injuries, and then he really made that central role his in the last month or so, and get his goal. And I think he said it was the first time his daughter actually came to the football match. And,
wow!
Yeah, and there's some personal reasons for that. I think his daughter's not going through some serious stuff. Okay. So it was beautiful for him to be able to score in front of his daughter and his wife, and being a local boy and winning a grand final, man, and Joe Marsden.
Yeah,
amazing.
Doesn't get any better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, shout out to Cam Howieson and his family for that one. But Auckland, they only had 38% possession. Now, they're probably a team, thinking about it now in hindsight, which is great. Sydney FC, it's probably a game you've got to go and score against Auckland, because they are a team that can hold a 1-0 lead defensively. They're very strong, very structured. But, I mean, that's a pretty impressive sign, despite they would have loved to maybe put put on more of a show. It's about winning these games, and to do that with 38% possession, not feel truly threatened throughout the game, was obviously a significant sign of an experienced and strong team, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the game super cagey for the best part, right? Particularly in that first half. High press from Auckland just didn't let Sydney breathe. A lot of the time they had to go direct, and then they were picking that ball up. They played it to a T. Set pieces, throw-ins, long balls, real old school footy, and we've seen some consistency in that goal in what we've seen throughout the year. So to Corica and the lads, it's just staying true to their plan, really, and business as usual. So I mean the 38 possession stat doesn't really matter because you've won the GF.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Archie, you're an Arsenal fan. They've won the Premier League in I guess different fashion, you could say, to predominant like beautiful football. In a way, it's been built off like defense and structure. And you don't want to take any credit away from Auckland's Bruins, but they have a similar kind of approach, particularly around set pieces. They've been really successful at. I mean, you would have loved to have played off Sam Cosgrove on a lot of those long throws, but just your view on how important the set piece element and the way they've used them to be successful.
Yeah, it's been incredible, and especially when you're going to utilise the height and the strength of Cosgrove, because I think that was maybe a focal point that when they saw him as a player and when they brought him in, that might have been another side of the game that they can utilise or take advantage of, even if the football isn't particularly working great. And the way, like you talked about, the way they pressed Sydney FC, because Sydney FC like to start the ball with the defenders and the central defenders, and then move the ball around the back, and then try and find one of those central midfielders, and then they go kind of break and look to maybe find Quintal or Kispe. But there was just no way that they could break the lines of Auckland, because they were so disciplined and they really were on top of their defence, their midfield. And that's why we've seen a lot of balls that were lumped long. Yeah. And then Pinakar and the way that Dan Hoare just bossed the back and mopped up everything.
Swept it all up.
And you know who's probably a bit of an unsung hero, but I reckon he'd be great to play with, is Louis Verstrada, in regards to the ground he covers and the tackles he makes. He doesn't do a lot necessarily with the ball, but it's the damaging side of stopping the opposition is very impressive. Yeah, I
was going to say, just to lean on my ESL episodes on Instagram, it's called suffocating instead of suffocating. The Macedonian pronunciation is suffocating. Suffocating, and that's what Auckland did to Sydney. So he's bloody putting big pressure and suffocating. So I know it's slightly off the cuff.
Okay, but Auckland suffocating very well, huh?
Super job.
Super job, Auckland. Well done, brilliant. Hey, just to touch on set pieces, how important they are in sometimes big games. Around 25. Showing between Auckland and Sydney. Well, there was some similarities in the goal on the weekend. Let's have a look, because maybe Sydney FC, they were probably aware, but this was very similar. Looking for Cosgrove, obviously Guillermo Mai lost his marker at the back and scored off a header. But Archie, to your point, I mean, it's annoying for the opposition. But it's something you don't want to concede from, absolutely.
Well, how are you going to defend someone of his size and stature? Especially too when you look at the back line of Sydney FC, you've got Courtney Perkins and Popovich. Okay, they've got a great leap on them, but maybe someone like a Tisserole, where he was missing, was quite big and strong and could win the aerial duel. But yeah, you look at the setup, it's very, very similar. And we did, again, talk about maybe where goals were going to come from, and it probably was going to be a scrappy game. And this is what they did well. They just used the big man and fed off the scraps, and it was a bit of a deflection. It was a big deflection, but it was a goal. Yeah,
absolutely. Archie was speaking about him, Naum, in Cam Howieson, and I just want to touch on him because he was the Joe Marston medalist. And just speaking, Butker, because you're connected to the NPL space, right? Yeah. And obviously Cam Howieson, he had a career over in the UK where he went over a bit younger, but he was essentially playing in a local league in New Zealand before he got signed to Auckland. I mean, the mentality that takes to come in and transition to be a performer, to not be necessarily a starter when he first comes in to the squad, shows something. But to get there in the first place and be in this position, it's pretty special.
It's a Cinderella story, and like if you think about that, for any young kid that's trying out there, like in the lower leagues, this is the perfect blueprint. This is the perfect example of what persistence can get you. So for Howie, I mean, put the story aside with his daughter, which is fantastic, that she was there. But for this story to now play out the way it has, like, it's an absolute golden moment for him. So Wrapped, it shows what you can do and what you can be when you're persistent and when you give it your all. So to any younger player that's out there, or even older player that's out in the system, I don't think there's been a better time within the A-League for these players to actually show what they can do at this level, and Howie's a perfect example.
And there's the Marston Medalist from 20 years ago. Our very own Archie Thompson putting it around Cam Howieson.
If you don't mind with the
I mean, look at him. They got the best looking man in the stadium to put the medal on him. But Archie, I mean, you spoke about it just before, but just to be accurate, 7 years playing semi-pro football for Auckland City.
Wow.
And he was a part of the first cohort of players that got signed to the club. And he hadn't played a lot of games due to injuries as well, but it just shows. I think it's an element of Corica as well, keeping players of Cam Howieson, of other players ready for when the Jake Brimmers go down, for when Guillermo Mai goes down, that there's a belief in that squad to go out and do something.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and he's 31 years old. I mean, he's not a young boy. He's had to wait a long time to get that opportunity. But like you said, I think to have a coach, and this is where I think coaches that have success and are very good for squads, is they don't just look at their 11 or they just look at their 14. They look at the whole squad and how they can, get the best out of everyone. And sometimes I've seen managers that they're chums with just the 11, and they don't think about maybe the confidence or the feelings about other ones. And this is where a great example is Sydney FC, where Patrick Kisnorbo came in. A couple of young players were on the fringe, and he's come in there, and I think his words were like, just show them some love and give them a bit of faith and confidence, and see what happens with that Sydney FC team. I think that's what. We talk about Arsenal, Arteta. He had to work with the whole squad and make everyone happy, and he did that. And I think that's why everyone came in and done so well. Exactly the same. Like you said, the blueprint of Auckland with the way that Corica's used every single one of those.
Yeah, very much so. It's not easy to do that as well as a manager, to keep everyone happy. Near impossible, would I say. Butker, you played in a fullback position, and I guess Archie can attest to that. Playing against tough but also athletic defenders can be a nightmare. And Dan Hall, he was very much a dominant figure for Auckland's defence. I mean, just talking through his game, it's one of those things. It's about concentration, it's about effort, but he turned up in the right moments to make some important challenges that kept Auckland in the game that maybe the blind eye doesn't see.
Well, it's all that unwanted hard work that no one would really see, and you could probably give him the BOG for this particular game. But for me, it's absolutely class from one of your backmen to be really their goal-saving tackles, and something that he's done consistently across multiple clubs as well. So he's showing his class, and I'm sure he'll shake up the recovery scene later in this episode.
Oh yeah.
And I think with Dan Hall, he's another one of a player that's shown resilience, because me and Maka were talking about it on the coverage about there was a game at Central Coast where he was a left back or something like that, left or right back, and I think it was under the Montgomery regime, and he started his first game, and I can actually remember it wasn't a great one, and I think he might have got subbed, and that was the last time you'd seen him. So he's had to work ever so hard, and look at what he's done. I mean, 3 premierships.
Well, yeah. Three A-League championships, 2 premierships, and an AFC Cup in his last 4 seasons, which if you break down the maths, it's every 23 games Dan Hall's won a trophy.
That's huge.
Which might explain some of the scenes post-game, but before we lay up what was Dan Hall's weekend, let's have a look at what he had to say to Michael Zapponi.
Quiet night in Auckland tonight, you reckon?
I think we got recovery tomorrow, so gonna go home and get into bed nice and early.
Enjoy it.
Bed was obviously what he achieved, but 5:30 a.m. must have been the alarm sign, because this was the time that he put it up on his Instagram. We'll go through, I guess, the change room first, which was Dan Hall was clearly best on ground. Archie, I mean, just talk through this. You've been here before. Yeah. Beers in the change room or celebrations in the change rooms after you've won a grand final.
Yeah.
What is the feeling a player goes through?
Well, I mean, it's incredible. It spilled over to 5:30, but I remember when we won our first championship, and I was home by 11 o'clock, honestly, home at 11 o'clock, changing my son's nappy. Yes, Axel, you sport that celebration, mate. He's actually turning 21, so I'm still...
Happy birthday.
21 this year. I'm
Oh,
glad.
this year. I thought today.
And I'll probably have to change his nappies on his birthday too, because he's going to have a big one. But it's just an incredible thing.
Well, yeah, that explains the 5:34 a.m. post of the Auckland boys, which Dan Hall led the victory celebrations, and then I believe they had a parade the next day, which was a few sunglasses on some boys, but in true fashion of the Kiwis, they had a great celebration over there. So congratulations to Auckland, very well-deserved premiership, and a man that was a key part of it, Archie, he's now become... part of the Mount Rushmore, you could say, of coaches in the A-League. But Steve Corica, the first manager to 3 A-League Grand Finals wins, and to go with 2 as a player as well. I mean, just quickly, as a player, what was he like for you?
He was great. Like someone that was very hard to defend against.
Very silky.
Yeah, very silky, smart. Like, I mean, that's why he played so many years in the championship and even in Japan. But I was fortunate enough to play with him also too with the Socceroos, and he was just quality. But you can see players that are going to have or fall into that managerial role, and he did it so beautifully. I think what he done at Sydney was just amazing. What he's doing at Auckland is just incredible. But you could just see that what he means from the players' point of view. They love him, and I think that's a good representation of him as a coach, is what your players say about him. And I think they've said a lot, and he deserves all the success. Just incredible.
Well, Butker, it's almost like we spoke about Archie's Marston Medal 20 years ago. It's, roughly, it was probably a bit over that, or less than that, but 20 years to practically the day where Steve Corica scored his first goal for Sydney FC. Now to be as a manager of a new club in another country, part of the same league, it's very unique. I mean, from you were pretty bullish on Auckland, I would say mid-season when we did our reviews, that they would be rock solid, was your words.
Yep.
And they dropped a few games.
Great memory, by the way.
Yeah, that's my job. Yeah, nonetheless. But they dropped a few games at that point. What about that team did you back and believe in so much to now this? You're probably definitely one on the couch that's not surprised.
Look, if you think about what Stefche's done since the inception of that football club, to get that first year result, they probably underachieved. So there would have been something in that locker room, urging them to get, one step further or even win this thing completely. And here we are. With don't get me wrong, I tipped both Melbourne teams in the finals. I had my Melbourne hat on, but there was just something there. I think more so from a cultural side. And then if you look at the strength of that changing room, that 1 in, 1 out policy from a coaching perspective, where one player goes down, you can bring the, Howie comes in and does, wins the medal. I mean, again, that's the key to having a successful squad and team and football club. The challenge is now, I don't know if Corica, is contracted, but not dissimilar to Ange, to Muskie, to these guys that have, Aloisis that have gone overseas. It's how do we keep him part of the league? Because with that type of record, is he now on the radar of some bigger clubs out in Asia, or potentially even in some second-tier clubs in Europe?
Yeah, well, Stefche, sacco feito, huh? Yeah, the team of Auckland, very good. Archie, just quickly, I do want to mention just a big shout-out to Auckland. I guess you'd call them a B team, the reserve team. We're also the champions in the OFC Pro League. They beat South Melbourne over the weekend, so it was back-to-back titles for the club, which is an incredible achievement by Auckland. But Archie, you've been across the league since its existence. Ange, Arnie, and Kevin Muscat are 3 coaches that people think of when it comes to multiple championships. Steve Corica is one of the few to do it across a couple of clubs, like Graham Arnold. I mean, now he's in that bracket of discussion. He's definitely earned that right, would you say?
100%. I mean, to win it, and I think only Graham Arnold was the only coach to be able to do it with 2 different teams. So he's done that, but he's also won 3, and none of those other guys have done it. So you have to almost say that he's at the elite level now, and like you touched on, I think it'd be very hard for some. If he's got that ambition to want to go overseas and do something, I think he could, because I enjoy the football that he wants his teams to play, and I think he sets them up perfectly for that. I think with Sydney FC we saw a nice footballing team. We saw with Auckland that they can be very strong defensively and physical. So he can mould anything that he wants. I think that it's great that he's got a game plan where he can change it up. Where Ange was someone that was like, okay, plan A doesn't work, plan B is to do plan A better. I think with Steve Corica, he's adaptable and can get the best out of players. So that's a really great asset to have. And
I think to throw in on that, you've got to also understand he's got to embody a culture of a new country, a new city, and bring that into the team, being an Australian coach. And I feel like he's done that very well, obviously with the support of the Auckland backroom staff. But that's another element. He's got to become a Kiwi.
Yeah.
To win over the fans and build a club that they're proud of.
Yeah. Well, I think Australia need to sort of see what New Zealand are doing great, because what they've done with the Wellington female team, that's been fresh, and they went into a W League final. You've got the Auckland team that, minor premiers last year. They win a grand final. The All Whites are off to the World Cup. Wellington weren't too far away a couple of seasons ago. So it's an exciting time for football in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I hope that with what Auckland's doing, that they start to really, pump some money into it, and hopefully we can do the same here in Australia.
Yeah, well, look, it's not a exclusive announcement or I guess a hot take, but Auckland, they could be there every year. The way they're building as a club and the players they've got in the park, the depth, some of the players will go through coming off contract. But I mean, generally speaking, their squad is so strong. They'll be back again. Now, guys, we're all former players on the couch, but I think we're all comfortable being on the couch, not being players anymore when it comes to pre-seasons. But if there is a moment we miss, is when you win with a change room of boys that you love playing with, or for the females out there of girls that you love playing with, and you get to celebrate and enjoy some of the hard work that you've done as a group. And just to show you a moment, a press conference at the end with Steve Corica and Cam Howieson. This is what it meant to everyone and what football can bring to your life and the happiness in a moment. But this was a brilliant watch. Let's have a look at it.
Premiership in our first season and a grand final win in the second year. That's more than we could have asked for, I think. But with, obviously great. Oh, here we go.
Well, that was one of the moments from the end of the game, the press conference. Journalists sitting there thinking, not sure what to say, but Auckland crashed that, which I must say is about 100 metres down the hall from their changing. They sprinted there with a DJ jack. Jake Bremer, he might not be getting a game at that club again because he was pouring champagne down the back of Steve Corica's neck there. But Archie,
that'll be us after the last episode.
Yeah,
we've done well.
We're 15 minutes away from that.
Yeah, download Mad Monday at Archie's. But I mean, Butker, just when you see that, I mean, how it does make you wish you were still playing and experience that again, doesn't it?
There's no better feeling in the world when you're doing it with a group of people that you've lived with for the best part of a year. And you get a magic result. And the best thing is you just see Steph just pound the table. He knows what's coming. And the boys go absolutely mad. Love it.
Yeah, well, just talk about professionalism as a coach. I mean, he's just had champagne poured down his neck, and then this was just a couple of seconds later. Talk about professionalism in Steve Corica.
Anything left in that? Oh, dear. That's the culture we built here, huh?
You can talk about culture. What is it about this club that's Premiership, Championship in its first few seasons?
I think firstly, obviously, getting the right people in, good people.
Yeah, well, good people, whilst he's dripping in champagne, is a hell of an effort by Steve Corica and Auckland. I mean, amazing to see and very much deserved winners, as we've just said. When we speak of professionalism and a guy that came in and made a massive difference, we're talking about a guy by the name of Patrick Kisnorbo, who has just been rewarded with a 3-year deal to stay on with Sydney FC. It seemed like, as his tenure was coming towards an end, that it was going to happen, but definitely when he came in, there was a view that Sydney FC might be looking to get an overseas coach. You understand, with the quality and success of Patrick Kisnorbo, that they didn't sign him to any long-term deal. They came in on a short-term interim job. Archie, I mean, just your stamp of approval on him. We knew what he's capable of,
Yeah.
but to see it with where Sydney were at, they were going backwards. You know, they've lost the coach. The culture seemed a little bit off. The club didn't feel, even though it was in 5th or 4th position, it didn't feel like it was in the spot that it is in right now.
Yeah, look, I didn't think that they were going to make finals, even though, like you said, they were kind of a little bit entrenched in that in that top 6. I still didn't think, with the football they were playing, that they were going to be making finals. And then, you know, Paddy comes in and makes a complete change. And you've got to remember, that's actually the only game he's lost since in his tenure of Sydney FC was the grand final. And to be able to turn that team around like he has, from starting from obviously identifying what needed to be done, which was strengthen the defence, which, you know, being an ex-defender, he knows what was needed. And you could see straight away with the amount of clean sheets when he came in, they still weren't really playing great football, but they weren't conceding, which is what you want. And then you could start to see that the building blocks from the foundation of the defence to the midfield, that was the next bit of, I think, the foundation that was getting laid, and it was starting to work. Camijo, Quintal, Ocon, that's when they started to really start to play great football, and it really came together in the couple of semi-finals that they played, and even the game against Victory, they were great. Just probably up front was the one thing that maybe if you had a bit more time, that could have worked a little bit better. But what a fantastic job he'd done, and he deserves, I think, to be able to get the opportunity to start from scratch, have a pre-season. That team's going to be working very, very hard. They worked hard when he came in, but look out, guys. Even extra. P3's going to get a workout.
Butko, when we speak about their season, they obviously finished 5th in the regular season. You know, it's really interesting when you think about Sydney. I mean, visa signings are supposed to make a massive difference. They don't always do. But in Sydney's case, well, you know, being honest, they, you know, probably Piero Quispe and Victor Camposano probably didn't set the league alight. As such, Joe Lolly was injured and Marcel Tisserand as well. So they've managed to do it without those type of players. But just on the visa signings, where's your stance on them and their approach to that? Because it felt like there was a lot of confidence going into the season with what they brought in. I mean, Piero Quispe was a Peruvian international. Joe Lolly, we know his quality. Marcel Tisserand's played in top leagues. Victor Camposano's been a Real Madrid academy product and so forth. But it didn't really hit, did it?
Yeah, and it's one of them conversations. I'm sure we've all had it, you know, around the bar or at a cafe. If we're bringing visa boys in, they need to be better and of a higher quality than what we've got locally. Otherwise, we want to play our local kids or our local players. So I'm sure that's something that PK will be looking at in the club, you know, depending on how long these boys are contracted. And I don't know, is a question there around, you know, time in the league? You know, do they need, you know, half a season? You'd think a visa player comes into the country and responds fairly quickly. So that's, you know, I guess a component that PK will be turning the mirror inward and saying, all right, what are we doing with our batch of visas, our internationals? You know, how can we make this work? Is it the current batch? You know, is it a slightly abbreviated version of what we've got?
Yeah, Archie, I feel there's going to be force change with Sydney FC, but probably Patrick Kisnorbo wants to put his stamp on the squad. We just go Ahmet Arslan, Joe Lolly, Stamatolopoulos, King, and Jordan Courtney-Perkins, Patrick Wood, and Piero Quispe are all out of contract. Victor Camposano is actually signed until 2027. But you looking at that squad with what you've seen this year, where's he got to revamp?
Well, definitely up front. I think Quispe. Yeah, it was a funny one because like he's so silky on the ball, but I don't think he was doing enough. Like it was those when he kept it simple and was playing forward. That's what I wanted to see more, but it just didn't happen for him. Camposano, I just think unfortunately sometimes you can come into a league and if you look at his stats, they're not high in terms of like goal scoring, and I don't know if they probably. I know he's got another year. It'd be hard for a club, I think, and even Paddy, and maybe even the fans that maybe see him stick around. But you never know. Maybe he just needed that little bit of understanding, start a pre-season, and really work on what he can do. But yeah, he will have his own players in mind that he wants to bring into the club. But those are the sort of key positions that we're just a little bit lacking.
Yep. No, absolutely. Well, Butker, you know the fullback position better than anyone, and one that's been so well tenured, was going for his 5th championship on the weekend and put in a hell of a performance, was Rhyan Grant. And we just want to touch on him, on his performance, where he largely matched Jesse Randall on the weekend, and we know how electric he can be. At 15, he's 35 years old now in the league. He's practically almost had a 15-year career, if not more, in the A-League. But just tell me about him from a fullback perspective, what you see about him that's so valuable to Sydney FC.
For me, something that I've loved, and I got to see him come on the scene as well as a young lad. But Buster's Mr. Consistent. I think didn't miss a minute this season.
Not one.
I mean, not 1 minute at 35 years of age. You're taking the P155. Like, this guy's the real deal. I think 400 plus games. So for me, I'd say, Buster, keep going, lad. And can you get the record? Can he go all the way? Based off the season that he had, and he just evolved and got better and better throughout the year. And what a great clubman. Like, such an asset for that club on and off the park. So Buster from Butker, I love you, mate. Well done. Cracking season.
Keep suffocating. But I'll just before I give Archie the floor on Rhyan Grant, I mean, he's played 346 games in the A-League. Lee Broxham's 386, so he's 40 games off. I believe they're already matched on the minutes category.
Okay.
But obviously, he's played a lot of games, and there's 40 to go, so he might get there. Archie, just longevity is one thing, which you experience being in the A-League, but so there's a professionalism aspect to it, and you've got to be good enough. But as a fullback, I mean, you've seen him play across 3 generations now of the A-League. I mean, he's special.
Oh, he's real special. I mean, I love him. I think he's amazing. Amazing guy, amazing footballer. And like you talked about, I think the older he gets, I think the smarter, because you're always learning. I think you're always learning as a footballer, even at the age of 35. When should I not go? Because maybe your body's not going to be able to keep up with that strenuism. Is strenuism a word?
Well, it is now. Strenuism.
Absolutely it is.
Whatever today's date is, quote that by Archie Thompson when things are going tough.
Maybe.
Strenuism.
Yeah.
ESL.
Yeah, it's an Archieism strenuism.
I'm known to make up a word here and there. I haven't for a while. So
let us know in the comments if that's a word, people, because...
that position's quite strenuous.
Yeah,
it is. But so you can see that even over this year, he's been a lot smarter in the way that, okay, I can't do those lung-busting runs that we love to watch. From him, you can see the ball on one side and him bombing, trying to get into the box. But he's become smarter in that sense. But I was so disappointed that in terms of Sydney F losing just because of Rhyan Grant, because I think he's been such a great leader and asset for that Sydney FC team. I'd love to see him keep going if he can, and I'm sure he will with the minutes that he's played. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, kudos to Rhyan Grant. Didn't miss a minute all season for Sydney FC. What a player. And strenuism. That's maybe a highlight of the whole season for the download. Up there with Calzones. Archie Thompson, brilliant.
Bang, bang.
Yeah, bang, bang. He's been brilliant all year, Archie, as well. He hasn't missed a beat on this show, as is Naum Sekulovski.
And if you don't see me next year, maybe that strenuism just might push me off the cliff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, tenured. But nonetheless, audience questions, guys. Every Sunday, which this was the last Sunday just gone for the season on the downloads, where you guys can ask myself and the panel any questions. And we've got some absolute rippers today, guys, because this is probably a little bit more tilted to a holistic view of the finals and the season. But Azmoon Baran on Instagram, Butker, goes, surprise player of the final series, question mark. Who stood out to you that maybe didn't get enough credit?
Good question. Well, we could probably say Buster might be the obvious one. I think he excelled through finals footy, probably Ocon in that side as well. So, yeah, they're my two.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, you're right. I think those guys were great. You could probably throw Garuccio in.
Yeah, he's been outstanding as well.
Yeah, he started to really play well back into the season when he got himself fit. I have to probably say Eli Adams was someone again. Impressive.
Of course.
But I probably would say Ocon, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with Wataru Kamidjo, who probably, didn't play a great deal through the season, but My God, he's fantastic. He's tough, he's clean on the ball, and he complemented Paul Oaken Jr. very well throughout the finals. This is going to be a bit of a tough one, right? Because this has a brackets to the question. But Ashton Jack Sargent on Instagram goes, who is your overall player of the season? In brackets, hard mode. Can't say Juan Mata.
Oh, we're leaving the great man.
Yeah, we're leaving the Johnny Warren medalist out. So who outside of Juan Mata was your player of the season, Budka?
Probably box office Jets, Clayton Taylor.
Yes,
Yeah, for
fantastic.
me. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, double digits in goals.
Yeah,
he was
Clayton
brilliant and
Taylor.
electric all
Massive
year.
impact, yep.
Yep. Archie, for you?
Oh, man, it's hard because there was a couple that really shone. I really like Jesse Randall. I think he's great. But then, you know, someone like Eli Adams. It's really out of those two because I think the goals that Eli Adams scored this
Some
year.
absolute belters.
Yeah, and even the way that Jesse Randall scored his goals, even set them up, were great. So it's really out of those two.
Yep, I think good shouts. I'm going to go left field here because I think someone who was in Johnny Warren medal form before he got injured, and people forget, was Joe Lolly in the first 8 games of the season. He scored 4. He was unbelievable. He had a double in the Big Blue. And another man who maybe didn't have the same tier of form throughout the season, but also had some interrupted aspects, was Lockie Brook. But his level at one point was by far the most informed player in the league. So a shout out to those guys, honourable mentions for their periods of the league where they were on fire. The next one, Brandon_Nico on Instagram. What was the best game of the season, guys? I'm going to leave this one to you. There was a lot.
You can start.
I think we were talking about this backstage.
The high scoring one,
Yeah, the
wasn't
high
it?
scoring
Yeah,
one.
Newcastle and MacArthur, was it?
MacArthur.
Yeah,
the one.
That was 5-4, was it?
Yeah, that was
Goals galore.
That was
Yeah.
brilliant.
Oh, MacArthur won that one. Yeah, that's right. That was in Newcastle, which was one of their last highlights of the season. But it was also the odd derby, the Sydney derby as well. Budka, that brought some fireworks, wasn't it?
Even the game, I think, where Newcastle played victory when it was made 2-2.
Yes.
Yeah, so that sort of last-minute penalty it might have been, and Eli Adams. I thought that was a great game to watch as well.
Yeah, very much
There's
so.
lots, though, weren't there?
Been a stellar year.
Yeah.
It has been a stellar year, and just as, in due fashion, because it's been a stellar year, I've got a piece of paper here. I've got a lot of people to thank, which I'd appreciate if all the audience and listeners could be a part of it, because the download did not function just with some of the radio heads on the couch. There was a lot of people that we do have to thank because it's been such a stellar year for the A-League and for the coverage of it, but obviously the download, there's a lot of people that go behind it. Matt Wiedemann, Lauren Curtis, Joe Padula, who were the directors of the show. We thank you for all your support. George Panner, Winston Eckstein, Alsep Eardale, Elise Dolly, Sophie McCaw, Sam Rawlings, Owen O'Meara, and Dan Sorrell, who helped the set and supervise our production. Luke Tunnicliffe, Adam Cox, the EP of football, Nick Stoll, who provided production support, Lucas Perry, the head of digital, leading Lockie Flanagan and Narlene Mastu at Jam TV. Fran Corral, who edited the show every week, which was a tough job when you have us three on the show, but it was also directed by Logan Moody and Antonio Cafaso, David Davudovic, Chris Gospel, Tom Pollock, Thomas Birchmith, and James Barr from Bruce Media, who are also supporting the show, and our fellow panellists, guys, Thomas Sorensen, Rashid Mahazi, and Grace Ma, who cannot be here, but one special mention goes out to a guy who did not miss 1 minute of the A-League, and that is our lead producer, Rudy Edsall, who've got to give a massive thank you to for all his support. The show would not function without him, everyone, and I would not sound the way I do without him. So a big thank you to him. Before we round off, guys, I mean, another A-League season in the books.
Yep.
But it felt like one of the more entertaining seasons we've had in the last 10 years in regards to, the teams, some of the games performing. I mean, Archie, for you, I guess it was a pretty electric period.
The strenuism was real. Strenuism was real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, the season was just incredible. I mean, I know there was a lot of budget restrictions and people were thinking, okay, how's this football league going to run and what sort of quality is going to be out there. And look, some maybe not great, but I thought a lot of it was, and we saw some great young boys come through. And, to see the success of Newcastle Jets, Australia Cup winners, they win a trophy after, 17, 18 years. Not ever winning a minor premiership, they did it. I think that was an amazing story, but it was just brilliant. And also, too, when you look at towards the end of the season, this is how close it was. No one even knew, there was probably still 7 or 8 teams that were in contention.
Yeah.
Of making finals, even winning the minor premiership. So for me, that sounds like an exciting game.
Butka, your 2 cents on the year. I mean,
Mate, yeah, we saw some unbelievable football, some cracking goals, plenty of young players coming through, plenty of transfers overseas,
Yeah.
some great coaching. All in all, fantastic season and plenty to build on there for years to come.
Yep, absolutely. Well, big congratulations from the Download to Melbourne City across the Ninja A-Leagues for winning their championship. And of course, Auckland FC in their second season, taking out the Men's A-League. An incredible season of A-League. We hope you enjoyed the coverage on the A-Leagues Download, which was presented by Isuzu. We thank you for all your likes, comments and subscribes on the show. I'm Jake Barker-Daish, joined by Archie Thompson and Naum Sekulovski. We've got to be back. We might be back next year. In fact, we will be. We'll see you then.